Bleed is one of the strongest things you can use in Elden Ring. Any boss that's vulnerable to bleed will get shredded up faster than the roof of your mouth when you're eating Captain Crunch. Eleonora's Poleblade has bleed. It attacks really fast. That means bleed should proc basically immediately. And since you can get the weapon before fighting a boss, that makes this a secret starting class, so it's gotta be one of the best. Unless there were certain issues holding it back, and this is a secret dookie starting class. Join the Patreon to support the channel and vote in the polls. Eleonora beat Yura, and that's not just in-game canon, Yura lost the poll too. If you wanted to see frenzy spells and long katanas, you needed to vote. Follow us on Twitch to watch us play Elden Ring and other games like Kingdom Hearts and Astrobot. Those videos will be up on Tulok time. The Magic the Gathering Commander videos will be up on Tulok the Cardbarian, and we'll be starting up the new D&D homebrew on Tulok the Barbarian. Wish I didn't need 4 channels, but that's what the algorithm wants. Speaking of, like and subscribe. Then we can dance our way to the top.
So I had to chew it.
Taste me how to duck. Taste me how to duck.
Having blood is a very human thing, but you know what else is human? Making mistakes. So we kicked it off as a bandit, because it's got the highest dex in Arcane, 2 stats we need for Eleonora's Poleblade. It also has nothing else really good about it. The buckler, sure, it can be fun for some scenarios, but you'll see later it is not good for what we need to do starting this run off. It also has the Great Knife, which is the name of the knife, not an accurate description of the knife. Remember, the greatest knives in the game are just guns, Reduvia, Glintstone Chris, and the Black Knife. If your knife isn't a gun, it's not a great knife, even if it's the Great Knife.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're going to the Dragon Barrow right away to bamboozle the Knight's Cavalry. Why no big sleepy dragon? Well, unfortunately, Eleonora uses dragon spells, Grail's Roar and Agiel's Flame specifically, but killing Grail would unlock a method of dealing damage that the run can use, Grail's Roar, and we'd have to fight Eleonora with that, which would be pretty dog water, considering we'd have to put all the levels we got from Grail into Faith and Arcane, and we'd still need the 2 Fingers Heirloom and the Faith boosting Physic tier, so there's no room for extra vigor. But by dropping the Knight's Cavalry, we can get the Arcane and Dex we need for the Poleblade and still get plenty of vigor.
You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die.
First, we have to die to Nerd Juice. Embarrassing, I know, but bleed is good and he has that. We don't really yet. Parrying him kinda works, unless he hits you with the melee blade beam, which looks suspiciously like the wind up to the attack, and you got about 3 frames to judge which ones he's going for. Oh well, after 3 attempts, we make it click and grab a Great Knife to replace our Great Knife. The Reduvia. More secret starting class, secret rules. We can use whatever we pick up on the way to something we need. We just can't grab anything else or upgrade it. And also we killed Patches, but let's be honest, who cares about the rules? Nerd Juice had to die so that Yura would spawn in and, oh no, wait, actually we could have just killed him at the lake. I don't want to go to school, I just want to break the rules. I'm so brat. Time to suffer. Eleonora in this run is the hardest boss I fought since the NG7 DLC run, because I obeyed some of our rules and ignored others for, I don't know, because I just did it wrong. Let's figure out the problems. First, we can't parry. Both a skill issue and parrying isn't a good option here. Issue. If you parry and she doesn't do a melee attack, she has enough time to start up Grail's Roar, which is a one-shot with our health. So parrying, that's right out. Reduvia blade beams, at least that's good bleed build-up, right? Maybe if she didn't have more rolls than a goddamn bakery, her pole dancing stun locks us and one-shots us. Our bleed resist is super low. With this low a health, any bleed proc is effectively a one-shot when paired with the final hit that got us to bleed. Now our health is scaled for Altus. Most places I see have that recommended at level 60 or 70. We're 28. I'd assume most people have like a plus 10-ish weapon. We have the Reduvia at plus 0. This is what some people might call a rough putt. I'm not saying she's unfair, by the way. I'm playing the game incorrectly. First of all, anytime you struggle with anything in the game, you're supposed to just bail, grind, level up your weapon, find a new weapon, you're not supposed to just force yourself into a wall over and over. It's part of the FromSoft design philosophy since, I don't know, Demon Souls, with the different worlds you can go to. But also, we're just not the level you're expected to be for this fight. Most of the time, I'm playing this game over leveled until we hit the mountaintops of the giants where it kind of balances out. But yeah, if you fight Eleonora at level 60, it's a relatively fun challenge. If you like NPC fights, which I don't because they have way more health than you could possibly have, unlimited stamina, and rolling iframes are a fun thing for the player to have, helping you level the playing field against bosses. They're goddamn annoying when you have to fight someone using them. We just have to lock in and get good. Oh, and switch to the plus 7 spear we got from killing Patches. Yeah, again, this breaks the rules of secret starting class, but who cares? believe it or not, long spear better than short knife. Also, a +7 spear does much more damage per hit than the knife and more than compensates for the lack of bleed. Safety is the real boon here though, just keeping us out of the reach of the Poleblade, which, by the way, seems to have pretty bad reach, and that makes sense. It's a long weapon in total, but you hold it in the middle and swing out, making it more like a dagger or a curved sword if I'm being generous. I wonder if that'll be a problem later. Surely I've never had a problem when my weapons have a lack of reach.
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
After a nice long hour and 15 minutes, our spear pulls us through and we finally have the Poleblade. That took a really long time. What, was I trying to go grocery shopping, come home, preheat the oven and make dinner? No, I wouldn't do that. I just spent 2 minutes with today's sponsor, Factor. That's right, gamers, this video is sponsored by Factor. November and December holiday season is in full swing and you've got to spend time getting presents, running all about, hitting all those Christmas parties. With all that going on, who has time to go out grocery shopping and prep a whole bunch of food? Not me. That's why I appreciate Factor. They send you meals that are ready to eat in 2 minutes or less. You just pop them in the microwave and you've got delicious foods. No matter what your dietary needs are, Factor's got you covered with calorie smart options, protein plus options, vegetarian options, keto options. Whatever you want to eat, Factor's got you covered. I like the calorie smart options because I'm going to be pigging out on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So in between, I want to make sure I'm keeping things a little trim. But don't worry if you go calorie smart. Every Factor meal is delicious. They're never frozen, so the flavor is all packed fresh in there. Delicious, flavorful bounties of food going right in your mouth and on the train to Tummy Town. Factor's flexible too. You can change the amount of food you're having delivered. You can skip a week if you know Thanksgiving you're gonna have a lot of leftovers. Skip a week, come back next week. It's all good. Factor works for your schedule. Go to factor75.com or click the link in the description and enter offer code 50HEIGHT at checkout for 50% off your first Factor box and free shipping. Again, that's clicking the link in the description or factor75.com with offer code 50HEIGHT at checkout for 50% off your first box and free shipping. Now, let's get on to shipping this build across the lands between.
We've met before. Somebody come get her. She's dancing like a.
Yeah, so per the rules of Secret Starting Class, once we have a method of dealing damage, we need to drop the armor we're wearing until we have the official armor of the run. Those are the rules I really care about, and our armor is in the Faramazula area. That also means that as soon as we have the Poleblade that lets us dance, we take our clothes off. You might be expecting a joke about spicy dancers at this moment, but I never joke about spicy dancers. They are heroes, and some of the kindest people you'll ever meet. Fill lore time. While we're running around grabbing somber stones. Your boy used to drive for Uber, and this was before there was tipping on the app, which means I had relatives who would say they love taking Uber instead of taxis because they didn't have to tip. And they'd say that to my face, like a person. Like I'd say I drive for Uber and they'd be like, I'm never gonna tip you. It sucked. I figured out that when I was driving during the week, I was basically making $4 an hour after gas and oil. Yeah, not great. But driving the drunk shift, or 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, when they are the best surge prices, I can make like $25 an hour, which means I made more in 2 nights than I did driving in 4 days. In between that time, I looked for another job, and that sucked because other Phil lore, the college I went to was a scam and the degree was basically useless. In fact, the school's reputation was so bad, I later found out putting it on my resume actively made jobs not want to hire me. But I did meet Mango, Corey, who edits these videos, and he does a great job. So, kind of worked out later, like 10 years later. So, driving for Uber, I noticed around 3 a.m. Wait, hold on. I want to clarify, being friends with Corey was its own reward. I'm just saying that, like, it only paid off in a Phil's life feels okay and a little bit comfortable way 10 years later. Anyway, so driving for Uber, I noticed around 3 a.m. I'd happen to get spicy dancers who needed a ride home. They didn't have cars because 1, it's a cash job. Car dealerships don't let you pay in cash. And 2, if they drive their car to work, creepy guys can stalk them easier. So, Uber. And boy howdy, after I'd been dealing with the drunkest men in Minnesota for 5 hours, and they had been dealing with the drunkest and horniest men in Minnesota for 5 hours, they were really happy to talk to someone who wasn't after their spices. D's. And since they worked in the service industry and were carrying quite a bit of cash, they tipped. They tipped well. If you've ever been in the service industry, you know the 80-year-old dude who owns half the city, yeah, you're lucky to get a $5. The barista who's not sure if they're going to be able to pay their rent, yeah, you're getting $20. So I made damn sure that I was close to the spicy clubs at 3 a.m. and got the most generous tips of the night, lots of times the only tips of the night, from the girls who were not getting bottle service. Bottle service people just wanted to get Mickey D's. Everyone asks if people yacked in the car. They don't yak. They just want to go to Mickey D's. And they do want to smoke cigarettes, which, you know, since I was a smoker at the time, was pretty chill. I'd ask them to give me one, then I'd Febreze that shit when I dropped them off. Long story short, no, pretty long actually. Respect spicy workers and tip them well, because some of those tips might be funneling into your future favorite YouTuber's wallet. That's trickle-down economics. It's just trickling down a spicy pole.
What a story, Mark.
Anyway, we can go kill the sleepy dragon now, but I wanted to get the most money we could, which means we're gonna fight the Clean Rot Knights first. We've got bleed, we've got fire, let's test this thing out. First try, we cheated. We were wearing the leather set, so God punished us for our hubris, and we died to a mixture of rot and stabbing. Attempt 2, much more honest, much more naked. I'm hitting jump attacks, hoping for a little stance pressure, and it kind of works. But truly, if you want stance pressure with this thing, you gotta dance. Dancing does give some good stance pressure. Amazing bleed buildup and combo potential. You hit like 20 times every time you hit the L2 button. That's gotta be good. I can't see a downside for that. Scarab and pickles in hand. We chop up the single mother toes and make our way out with the most runes possible. Now we have a usable amount of vigor. Let's take it to the first half of the base game. Kill Boggart. I hate him. You don't. Whatever. Who cares? I gotta remember. Comments don't understand where my hair goes when I use a ponytail. I don't have to argue with them. Godskin Noble bleeds. It's weak to slash, which would be neat if this weapon did slashing damage. It's piercing fire in standard.
That's fucked up, man.
It's also kinda stumpy. I'm not gonna complain about this weapon. A lot of people think it's one of the best in the game, and I don't want to make the comments mad. Remember, I said I don't want to make the comments mad. Oh wait, no, I said I don't care. Yeah, I don't love this weapon. I just gotta get good at using it. We beat the Noble first try, so we got that going for us. Then through the fog wall, scoop up the Somber 7, bada bing, bada boom, +9 Somber weapon. Hey, did you know that a +9 Somber weapon rips through Margit really, really fast? Aren't you shocked? Yeah, you shouldn't be. It's a fire weapon, so it should also be good against the putrid avatar. And here's where you can see how hard this weapon is carried by bleed. Like a third of our damage should be super effective, but we're still just chipping away. Tearing it up to Grail, we see the other problem. It is in fact stumpy. It's stumpy. Split damage, very low stance pressure unless you hit the dance, but it has bleed, so yeah, it's alright. Just gotta turn the fire damage up a bit. By slashing the other putrid avatar that's in Caelid, this one goes better. Well, because it's weaker. Duh. Now back to the danger path. We get some proper physic tiers. It might seem extra dangerous without pants, and I guess it is, but I've been through here enough. I think we'll just skip the narration in future runs. Godric has too many hands. Let's cut some off. Pole dancing stance breaks him in phase 2. That's a free win. Amazing. The +9 Somber weapon with bleed beat Godric.
You did it! Congratulations!
It's also easy to beat the Clean Rot Knight in the Blood Cave. Wait, it's not blood? Even after all the murder we've done? It's still water. Winged Sword Talisman should give us around a 10% boost to our damage once we combo off. We're gonna combo off like an Is-It player. Ooh-wee! Tulok the Cardbarian, if you like that joke. Go subscribe! If a +9 is good, a +10 has gotta be nutty, right? So let's do a bit of Vari's Quest, fight the Beast Man, and then realize the Winged Sword insignia was a stupid idea. 10%? Yeah, that's neat. If you can build the combo up, you know what's neater? 20% with no work. Blue Dancer Charm from the bottom of the High Road Cave should crank things up by about 20% with where our equip load is. And think about it. If you pronounce Blue Dancer wrong, it's blood. Answer. The answer is blood. To dancer. I'm really just letting myself go off the rail with this one, cats and kittens. Hopefully you're having a good time. Sneaky around and teleport up to Mohg, then grab the Somber 10. And you know what? I think I can handle Mohg. We got a +10 bleed weapon and the dude is anemic. Hell, we even have a Mohg tier. Mohg, bring it.
He brought it.
So why can't we beat Mohg? Well, couple things. First of all, naked. We're naked. Our robustiness is paper thin and we get staggered by the bleed. With the blood on the floor, it'll tick us up, stun locking us into a big hit for Mohg that we can't live because we're not wearing any armor. Well, then just kill him faster. You got a bleed stick. Yeah, and Mohg bleeds super fast. But did you know that he takes less damage per bleed proc than most bosses? Half as much, in fact. And his resistances go up every time he bleeds. After 4 bleeds, which have gotten you to about 20% of his health down in damage from the bleed, he's now up to 720 bleed resist, which is, you know, normal to high, which usually happens before phase 2, when the floor is covered in Splatoon juice. He also swings out wide, and the weapon we have is Stumpy. It's Stumpy! Getting in tight is tough with it, but I think the biggest problem is our damage output per swing. It's atrocious. Against Mohg specifically, he's got 80% resistance to fire, so all of the damage has to come from bleed. So yeah, we have bleed. But if it takes us 10 hits to get a bleed, and that bleed only gets us 5% of the boss's health, dog, just hit him with a bigger stick. Also, we're really low level still. Haven't even been to Raya Lucaria yet. So let's do that. I wanted to dump Truckaroons. Mohg drops 420k, blaze it, but oh well, it's fine. Red Wolf feels so much easier than the Lord of Blood. Who could have guessed it would be easier to kill a dog than a blood god? I forgot to rest of the grace, so we're gonna skip Ken Moonrum Parry it today. What if Renala has hands?
I doubt it, but you never know.
Carve her up and into phase 2 where she gets, she gets us a little bit. Going for our second dance, she backs away and we are locked in for a good long while, taking a few strays. That's the only stressful moment. But it's worth remembering, you gotta be careful where you're dancing. Radahn will surely let us dance. It's a party after all. Yeah, it works pretty great. All the bleed and distraction carve him up so bad he doesn't even get to jump. No jumping, only dancing. Jumping is not dancing, though it can be part of a dance. Now our pole can slide down Radahn's hole like a firefighter. Nothing gross. Legit, I always wanted to have a mansion, not for anything practical, just want a fire pole in my house. Dreams of youth. Beat the Mimic and then we have to run errands for Ronnie, so let's just talk about the 1995 film Casper. Rewatched that recently and it's a whole cup of fine. But you know what's in that movie that you don't see in movies anymore? Sets. Like when they're on the stairs are real stairs. They made stairs. When there's a funky chair on rails that takes Christina Ricci through a cave, there's a funky chair on rails that takes Christina Ricci through a cave. They made places and sets and things, and I just want a funky manor with hidden rooms behind bookcases, poles to slide down. Maybe we could build some affordable housing if we just build sprawling, opulent mansions and everyone rents one bedroom. Then in common spaces, we have weird libraries with the spooky decorations and paintings where the eyes move. Loretta Ghost Horse can't bleed, but it's Loretta Ghost. We're not gonna die.
You must be so embarrassed!
That was pure greed. Unadulterated, unfiltered. Astel's pretty uninteresting. We just kind of run up and jump to hit it in the face. I guess it's worth noting you hit enemies with Blood Flame while the weapon also has innate bleed. Adds a little more sauce to it, especially from bosses that run away, keeping the bleed buildup from falling down. Then we fight Rykard with a Serpent Hunter. Regal Ancestor Spirit bleeds pretty fast for a moose. I have no idea if moose bleed quickly or slowly. To figure that out, I'd have to fight a moose. And I'd rather die, because I'd also die fighting a moose. Valiant Gargoyles. God, we're getting all my favorites back to back. Here, I'm actually glad the weapon does standard damage instead of slash, since these dudes are actually worse against standard. But they really make us run today. Like, really, really make us run. And then I died after wasting 2 minutes running around in a circle looking for an opening. Feels bad. Attempt 2, we get poisoned, but risking it for the biscuit with the dance paid off. Killed the first one before the second one dropped in. Then we died again. Third try, dance again, greed in to finish the first one fast, but here's the kicker, don't get poisoned. And then almost die by being poisoned later.
But you didn't.
So we win. Yay! Fia's champs can all bleed, and we get to feel what it's like to be Eleonora against us. Felt pretty good. Hopefully, I start feeling that Blood Flame dance a little bit more in the second half of the game. Royal Capital, they actually banned dancing here because Morgoth's daughter died in a car accident. True story. Godfrey Shade isn't ever really an issue. He can't bleed, but this isn't a bit like it was with Loretta. We just hit him until he dies. Morgoth goes even better because he can bleed. So Phil, why don't you like the Poleblade? Cause I'm a hater. I'm a hater. okay. Also, I think it's cause I was a little stressed. I knew what the next run was. Someone asked to commission Romina. Romina's not gonna have any pants. Romina's gonna have a spell that's really bad. Romina's gonna have a halberd that doesn't build up rot very fast. Romina is gonna go poorly, and I knew it, and I felt that in my soul, and I knew that's what was coming up next. So I needed this to go fast so I could do that, but this wasn't going as fast as I hoped it would because the weapon's all stumpy and it doesn't make stuff bleed as good as I thought it would, even though it makes stuff bleed better than everything else in the game, but the fire damage isn't good and it's all split up. And anyway, long story short, I'm a hater. Call me Bill. Hater. For someone lands, I'm writing this on the 1st of November. Do I know what will happen on the 5th yet? Nope, it's pretty up in the air at the moment. I guess it's a little break then. Not forever. We literally had someone comment they think lazy people deserve to starve to death last week, and like, you know, that's why we gotta do this. Cruelty as a belief structure has gone so far that we're extending the death penalty beyond murderers and thin pancake makers, you know, crepe-ists. This section is here because if you're not a weird creep who delights in the suffering of others, it should be fine. Like when I see a sign that says, "Don't drink this detergent" on detergent, I'm not mad about it because I had no plan to do that. It's just something I can see and move on with my day. I'd only be mad if, like, I don't know, I wanted to drink the detergent. So, if you don't like this section because you come to games to escape your reality and you come to YouTube to escape reality, sorry pal, reality is real, it exists, it's all around you, and sometimes you should stop and consider for a minute or two, do I think unhoused people need to be turned into sausage? The answer should be no, and that no should come to you quickly. Then you move on with your day. If you don't, you're a weird creep, and I want you to be uncomfortable, so you either leave or ponder why you think some people don't deserve to live. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Those are the inalienable rights, right? I can't believe that this is controversial shit I'm saying when I think people should eat and not starve to death. Fire Giant doesn't get to live because he's in a video game. He's made of pixels. We also have to get to the kiln, uncomfy. He's got big fire resistance, so almost all of our damage is coming from bleed procs, as it does against every boss. They're pretty fast. We only need 3 per phase, but dang, that means more than half of our damage is coming from the bleed procs? That's sad. Fire Giant only has 50% fire resistance. Like, this isn't the ideal fight, but big oof. There are so many better bleed sticks. Bloodhound's Fang will get you 1 bleed per phase, not because the buildup is too low, but because it also just does enough damage that you don't need more. If I only wanted blood buildup with no damage, I'd use the blood boon spells. Spell enjoyers, that is not a compliment to those spells, by the way. Godskin Duo Time, the Twin Blade still doesn't do slash, and it's still fine. We stance break the Noble out of a rollout, then he stands up immediately and does the rollout. Looks weird. Eventually we go 2-on-1 because, hey, no Spirit Ash this run, there's no Sanguine Noble Ashes, no Bloody Albernerics, no Bloody Dogs. FromSoft really dropped the DLC, resurrected Mohg's body, sent you into the DLC through Mohg's arena, and the closest thing we get to a Mohg when Spirit Ash is the Blood Friends Hexer.
You forgot the
Sanguine Noble Spirit Ash. Oh, also, obviously, yes, Blood Friend Hexer, I hardly know her. Hey, look, we have the Drake set. Love the Drake set.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
I mean, it's fine. 40 poise means it's a little on the lower end of medium. We get absolutely rocked by Garronk.
I hate the Drake.
No, this isn't on the armor set. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know the worst thing when you're fighting Garronk is a short and dinky weapon. This is a short and dinky weapon. I'd call it a chode, but a chode implies that it's thick and hits hard. This isn't thick. This doesn't hit hard. It's just short. It's just a little shrimplet. I make the regular mistake of thinking that if I cannot possibly push my character closer to a boss, then when I hit the attack button, it should hit, right?
Wrong!
Twin Blades are fine against people your size. They actually do great in NPC fights, but against bosses with stupid triangle bodies, they're pretty frustrating to use. Also, only the Ash of War is good against NPCs. It's very good, but that's the only thing that's good against them. Rest of the moveset's pretty mid against NPCs. Also, Phase 1 is just harder than Phase 2. By the time we get to Phase 2, it's pretty simple. 3 losses isn't terrible, but at this point, Mally's usually a first try win. So it's something that people hype up as a poop stomper tier weapon. I am disappointment. Okay, let's get a little more optimal build. If I am saying something is bad, but I haven't taken the requisite 40-minute detours to make it ideal, I'm not being fair to it. I learned that during the Spell Hater arc, the one that's still going on. At least this build doesn't have any spells.
They forgot about me.
If you really care that I didn't want to hate the dragon spells again after some of you made it your whole personality defending dragon spells for months in the comments, I don't know, sue me or sue her. We're in the sewer fighting Esker and he dies. We get the Lord of Blood's Exaltation. It'll raise our damage by 20% after we inflict bleed. Now, instead of doing 10 damage per hit, we'll be able to do 12 damage per hit. Gideon is an old man and crumbles down under the sensual blood embrace of our dancing. Godfrey starts phase 2 covered in blood. I'm down with that. Mr. Osh's blood. Oh wait, it's Sir Osh? He was knighted? Good for him. Radahn is weak to fire, but can't bleed. So look at the damage of the maxed out plus 10 weapon with the fire boosting physics here. It's dookie. It stinks. Like, we should be carving him up. This is 100% carried by bleed, and bleed is good, but there are weapons with bleed that also have stance pressure, reach, and actual raw damage. This is just a bleed stick, very fast bleed stick, but it's just a bleed stick. Enough negativity though, we'll get positive. Eleonora, G, I think you're swell. We quit out fighting Mohg at a better level because the bleed build is bad against the boss that's weak to bleed somehow. So let's slow down this fight and talk about it more. Again, a second time we have to break down why this is bad against bleed. Bleed number 1 happens and gets him to around 15% of his health lost. Neat. A second bleed in phase 1. We get a stance break and a crit with a third bleed after that. Then he gets to heal up for phase 2. We've gotten 3 bleeds before phase 2. Bleed him for a 4th time in there and dance to put the pressure on. Get a crit from some dancing. 5th bleed, and then we get stun locked into Blood Flame and die because our mobility sucks and we need to get in tight with the Poleblade, but we can't because the floor is covered in blood. Again, 5 bleed procs is 25% of his health. So we just needed to close out the other 75% with all of the hits we got to get those bleed procs. And we don't. Each hit does like 110 damage. A halberd has 2.5 times the reach and hits for like 600. And you can eventually stance break off of R1s without having to commit to a 4-second dance routine that's gonna get your butt smacked. Yeah, I am now gonna hate on Blood Flame Dance. This shit locks you in for way too long, which wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't the only method of doing decent stance pressure and damage with this weapon. If the R1s were good enough, we could just use that as a punish for long ass attacks or stance breaks. It'd be fun. Maybe It Bleeds Fast is good enough for you, but dog, Vulgar Militia Saw, Cross Naginata, Bloodhound's Fang, Flamburger, all of those can be buffed with Blood Flame Blade and have innate bleed. Those are fantastic blade sticks. You can give all but the Bloodhound's Fang bleed infusions or occult infusions to scale up their massive bleed and still have good damage, reach, and stance pressure. Hey, I thought you were gonna be nicer to the Poleblade.
I lied.
Oh, also, you should be nice to yourself and subscribe to Tulok Time to watch us play other games. It's the channel where we do that. We have Kingdom Hearts video going up soon. It's literally the game I want to play most for content, so please check that out. Almost done with the run right now on Twitch as I'm recording this. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time. Sub to Tulok the Cardbarian if you like Magic the Gathering. I'm making funky commander decks out of commanders I think are underrated. And sub to Tulok the Barbarian if you want to see the D&D homebrew I made that's very Bloodborne and Kingdom Hearts inspired. It's basically fanfic, you know. Check it out. Castle's Whole. Ghosts can't bleed. They're not fire, but Nile can bleed, and it doesn't take reduced damage from bleed like Mohg does. This one goes pretty great. There are fights that go pretty great, but the fights that don't go great are really frustrating for this build. Almost as frustrating as falling off on the way to Placidusax. It's not enough that the boss fight sucks after the 3rd playthrough, but you have to make the run back trash too. Well, we get a stance break from our dance break, that's pretty good, and then a second one. He gets so low, we almost get to skip the Omega Laser. Shoot. One more bleed would have done it. Gets stun locked by the fire. The Drake set has fantastic fire resistance. It's really good for fire bosses. I should remember to call out good stuff when good stuff happens. And yes, Drake set, very good against fire. Maybe some good stuff will happen during Fortisax. Actually, something great does happen here. When we beat Fortisax, we don't have to fight Fortisax again until the next run, the Romina run, where we won't have any armor. We'll have to use the terrible butterfly spell. Ooh, that's gonna be terrible. No, wait. Okay. Don't tell anyone I said this. This is a little secret. This is a little secret for us. I don't hate the butterflies? Halleck tree already. Wow, how the time flies. Speaking of time flying, we fully carve up Loretta. This is a boss fight where you actually want to be in tight. It makes a lot of her swings kind of go over your head. That's why she jumps back and tries to shoot you. She wants to be at mid to long range, so you gotta rush her down. It's a great fight. I really like Loretta. Just wish she didn't die so damn fast. Malenia time. Bleed is good here. Fire is good here. Stumpy is bad here. Maybe it'll be a wash. Well, a little issue. Our character is kind of bad at aiming the blood flame dance. When we use it, we have a 30% chance of just whiffing, just going somewhere Malenia isn't at all. Also, she can duck you out of it and kill us while we're committed to the attack, because, you know, it's like a 4-second animation. Not great. Come to find, sometimes she also has super armor while standing. Just standing when she comes out of the onion, she gets super armor. The dance works when she's not in super armor, because we kind of push her into the dance as the dance moves forward. But after she comes out of the onion, she just has super armor to stand still until the onion fully dissipates and we go through her and hit nothing to get punished because we locked into a move for, 4 seconds. But we don't have any other stance break options, and this is a great option for stance pressure when it does land all of its hits. We're just really rolling the dice. Can't wait to do this with worse armor and rot as our status effect instead of bleed next week. Oh my god, that's gonna be terrible. I'm gonna be in the air, you can't hit me. Oh. Wait. That makes you immune to being grabbed! It's the best spell in the fucking game! All told, it takes about 30 minutes, which isn't bad. It's Malenia. You know what is bad? Ritualistic murder. So originally, I wasn't going to touch on the blood cult in a media literacy check because, what do you say? Blood cult is bad, see you next week? Right? Or 2 weeks from now. We only do these if we have to talk about something during the Shadow Tree farm. But after diving in a bit, there are some things worth mentioning. First and foremost, blood cult, bad. Obviously, blood cult, bad. Ritualistic murder, bad. Mohg is redeemed of kidnapping Mikola in the DLC, but dog, that is the only crime he gets a pass on. He was fully into blood and the human sacrifice before Mikola got all up in his guts, his brain guts. Pro tip, anytime you're in a group and someone says, guess we gotta start making that blood lake now, you need to leave the group. Join another one, like a book club. Just really want to clarify that off the jump. So, how's a blood cult get started? Well, the formless mother finds a disaffected Mohg in the sewer, sad and covered in omen horns. I don't think it's a coincidence that she targeted someone connected to royalty and also rejected by that royalty. There's a sense of rejection inherent in Mohg and Morga, who the blood flame mother also reached out to. He didn't take her up on the offer, totally. I mean, he's got some blood flame on his attacks. He kind of half did it, half committed. Mohg had something taken from him that he thought was owed to him. Actually pretty on par with how a lot of cults get started in real life. Charismatic figurehead finds a rich fail son and then uses them to get the blood flowing, which is also why, despite wanting a new dynasty, there are nobles and priests and religious organization just like there is in the Golden Order. Also, interesting to note, new dynasty kind of sounds like nude. I nasty.
What does that have to do with it?
No. He's got a point.
This fall from grace also fits with the design of Mohg effectively being Satan, like cartoon Satan from the Looney Tunes. In Christian theology, Lucifer was God's golden boy until he fell from grace. Hey, grace is an Elden Ring word. I don't think it's a big coincidence that Mohg is super underground both in the sewer and then even deeper in Mohgwyn, because he is literally cartoon Satan. Which is interesting, because who does he join up with? The similarly disaffected. War Surgeon set describes the White Masks as mercy killers on the battlefield. They weren't so much surgeons as they were, I'll put this French knife through your face and make the pain stop. And I think when the wars were over, some of them might have been a little not okay. Nobody really gets how messed up the world is as someone who has seen the horrors of war and been forced to participate them, other than I guess the victims of the war, obviously. It's that thing where the US will go bomb the shit out of a country, kill countless civilians in new horrible ways, and then 20 years later make a movie about how sad our soldiers got having to do that. At least we got the fake baby from American Sniper. Look, he's moving the baby's arm with his thumb. Oh my god, that movie sucked. They're also obsessed with maidens, huh? No maidens for them, so no maidens in general. They go after the maidens hard, and have you go after the maidens, and I wonder if any of that is saying that they don't much care for women. Okay, so I know this is asking a lot of you to believe that maybe this game maybe sometimes talks about how women aren't always totally and completely treated well by men. Obviously, we agree. Bogart just loves swearing, Nefeli wanted to be a puppet, and Rennala shouldn't have spent so much time thinking about her kids and ignoring Radagon's needs to literally fuck himself. But maybe, occasionally, from time to time, the game is saying something about men and women. Sometimes, as some of, not all of, the themes. Occasionally.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, so do you see the parallel of Mohg being rejected by his mother, making that a problem for any maiden who can turn runes into strength, and how that can be used as a recruitment tool to recruit some tools who also dislike the maidens? But he's not just scooping up the incels, he's scooping up the incredibly violent. Bloody Fingers sorta just love killing people. Eleonora and Okina's lore is basically just these two were legendary at killing, and then some guy said, hey, killing's my religion, and they were like, sign me up, dog. Mixing this in with the war surgeons, we see either a desensitization to violence or maybe even a taste for it. Violence and death gives these people power, and power feels good. It's not entirely different than the Dung Eater we talked about a few weeks ago. Misanthropy comes from a feeling of rejection, but in this case the rejection is grown and groomed into something more hateful rather than getting out there on its own. Hatred can be sculpted and used easily. It's why outgroups are created, and it's why the angry men are isolated. If everyone who isn't like you becomes an outgroup, you're alone, and your only community is the blood cult. In Elden Ring, I'm not talking about anything in real life, of course. I don't talk about real life politics here, which is kind of what Mohg gets out of it. He gets a community, friends, servants, a hierarchy that he's the head of. But you know what he would probably love more than a community built on hatred? Actual kindness, love. He's incredibly susceptible to the mind control of Miquella, probably because Miquella's brainwashing starts with, hey, I like you, I like your goals, let's get married and love each other. Mohg is creepy, yeah, he's Satan, yeah, but he's affectionate in that cutscene before the fight. Doting, even. Brainwashing, brother-loving, nasty stuff. But you get the sense that he really enjoys positive attention. The Venn diagram of incels and simps is a circle, so remember the difference between a simp and a stan. A stan supports someone just because they like them and wish them well. Stans, generally fine. A simp supports someone with the expectation of being rewarded, and when that expectation isn't met, they get angry and weird and creepy. And Mohg. Mohg had the expectation that he'd get to be the golden boy only to get shoved in the sewer and then made into the incel recruiter of the Blood Mommy. All this to say, if you ever notice you're part of a group that says women are awful now, or trans people are ruining everything, or immigrants are poisoning our good blood, you might be getting Mohged. You might be getting tricked into isolating yourself into a smaller and smaller group so the head of that group can take advantage of you. Because what does Vari get? Vari sucks. He gets nothing. What do the Sanguine Nobles get? Dog doo-doo. You're much more likely to be on the bottom of the cult pyramid than you are to be on the top. You know how you make friends with women, trans people, immigrants, just anyone with a different background to you? Just be nice to them. Treat them with the most basic level of human decency. Understand that they're not obligated to give you anything for your basic decency other than some reciprocated decency. You've had hardships in your life? Sure you have. Everyone has. That should be something that helps you become empathetic to other people's hardship, not something that hardens you and makes you hate other people. And sure, if the decency from those other people isn't reciprocated, if you're nice to other people, they're not nice to you. Goodbye. Leave them alone. Move on with your life. But if you're only going into relationships with people, friendly, sexual, romantic, or otherwise, with just the expectation that you will be rewarded, you're not actually trying to make a relationship with that person. You're just trying to get the reward. And losing that reward will make you angry, and then the grifters will come for you because they can smell the blood in the water. Hey, how are the bosses that we needed to be for the Shadow Trees doing? Dragon Man is an NPC, we blend him. For the Jagged Peak Drake, we set about hitting the toes in our Drake set. I'm wearing you as armor. I have no respect for you. Hippo just gets blended. That's actually pretty nice. It can go kind of bad sometimes. Glad this worked out better. Jory gets destroyed so hard, she doesn't even get to summon. Maybe the Poleblade will actually be better for the DLC. Gaia's time, technically he's blocking Erdtree fragments, but hey, he's also a remembrance boss. Get hit by the first charge, and then get hit by every other attack too. Eventually we do need to land an attack if we want to beat this boss, and hey, we do after his little piggy dance. It's a really rough start. We're down to 1 flask left when he's at half health, and end up drinking that one shortly after phase 2 starts. But then we've danced enough and traded enough to get a stance break and a bleed right at the end. Mesmer immediately after, another high fire resistance, and we have not grabbed Jolan. Uh-oh, but here's the good news. This weapon doesn't actually do fire damage. It does bleed damage, and he's anemic, but unlike Mohg, he takes a normal amount of damage from bleed. The fight goes great. Takes literally a minute total. Romina next, since we already have the grace, we just get to run in and hit her. Her butterfly spell looks so cool. Hopefully, it'll be good for us.
I doubt it, but you never know.
Yeah, 3 bosses in 8 minutes, including the time it takes to load into them and run to grab the shadow trees after Gaius. So why is this doing so much better now? I didn't get better at the game in between streams. Our level is improved, sure, maybe it's just one of those weapons that really needs 40 plus and 2 stats. The arcane scales the fire damage and the bleed buildup, but the dex scales the standard damage, and we invested in that second. That could be it for sure. I really don't think that's the case though, because most of our damage is still just coming from bleed. I honestly think the bosses are just shaped better to handle stumpy weapons in the DLC, and I think that's because of the karate weapons. They knew they wanted to do karate weapons, but they also knew that if they put that in and made more funky shaped bosses like Malekith, it wouldn't be very fun. But that's just a theory, a game theory, which is tested again against the dancing lion. He likes to dance, we like to dance, should be a good time. And it is. For us, Rolana after that, she doesn't even get to power up her swords. We can trade in with the dance because of her combo style instead of a wombo style. If she had a wombo style, she would hit us with one big attack that breaks up our dance. Combo style is several small attacks that let us push in. That's good for us. Next stream starts off with Midra. We have not invested in mine, so I hope you like seeing the madness status effect because our focus is lower than my focus in real life. You heard me in this script, I'm all over the map. Like, you know how sometimes parents will be like, we want to get our kid a dog. We don't know if they can raise the dog. That's wild, because you know who can handle raising dogs? Dogs. Dogs are the default dog raisers when there are no people to raise the dogs. That means you think your kid is stupider than a dog, which I think reflects poorly on you as a parent. Maybe you're not ready for a kid. Maybe you should get a dog. Not to practice for the kid, but to raise the kid. Have the dog raise the kid, and then the kid can raise the dog. And that dog can be smart enough to raise the next dog. Why did I bring that up? Low focus. Anyway, it ends up being a matter of balancing greeting in with the dance for stance pressure and enjoying the full power bleeds. Doesn't really matter that he has big fire resistance, because remember, this weapon doesn't do fire damage. It doesn't do standard damage. It does bleed damage. Bleed is a good damage type though. Carves through Ana on the way to Menor, and then it carves out Menor pretty well too. We mostly just kind of get lucky that we aren't accidentally stun locked into stuff. Also, we get lucky that it throws down the hands right before the stance break. We have the combo boosting stuff on, so all those stray hits we're getting on the hands with our dance add to the bonus damage we're getting. That's enough extra sauce that we don't even see the Ultima laser. Not bad. Now, remember how this thing really doesn't do fire damage? That's why the Sunflower sucks. It doesn't bleed, so we don't have damage. You might think a fire boosting physic tier stacked with the low defenses to fire on the Sunflower, and oh, I don't know, the fire damage our weapon is supposed to have should balance out with the not bleeding, but no, the fire damage is bad. It can get a little better, it can get a lot worse, it can't get good. If only we had another option for more fire damage.
Am I a joke to you?
Yes.
I don't know why the putrescent knight went fine. It shouldn't have. No bleed. It's on the water. Fire resistance is pretty high, I think. It runs away. It's been a nightmare with other stumpy weapons. But this goes fine. Only thing I can think of is I expected it to go so shitty. I just locked in and really focused on dodging. We get a first try win here and have plenty of flasks left over. Let in the gang are next. They're all NPCs. We'll just dance in until Horn Scent drops 80% of our health bar with one Wraith Call. Yikes. Attempt 2, it goes fine until Ansbach just phones it in. Dude has the aggro of an old man who has very little left to live for because his cult has fallen into disrepair. It's like everything he devoted his life to abandoned its cause and he has nothing left anymore. Oh wait, that's him. Yeah, that's why he's so slow. Hopefully he gets a little pep in his step for Radahn. No Spirit Ash, little bit of a bummer, and we only got one option for stance pressure, the dance. At least Radahn is big enough that we don't just dance past him like we did with Malenia. It's a trade every time, and the first time it's a guaranteed bleed. I'm pretty happy to trade a hit in. Gets 10% of the boss's health gone, does decent stance pressure. Imagine if you could trade in for like 16.8% of a boss's health, plus an extra 1350 on top of that, and get decent stance pressure. That'd be awesome. That's like 20% on Consort Radahn. Anyway, I can't think of a way to do that. So let's just get back to trying to make him bleed a lot. Bleed is definitely the best status effect to get on Radahn until he hits phase 2 and just decides to give himself huge windows where you can't touch him. Sometimes it's in a, it's not safe to touch him without trading kind of way, but he also has plenty of, nah, straight up, I'm in the goddamn sky, dude. You literally cannot touch me. And I'll just hover here for a while my buildup goes down kind of way. If only there were a way to make him take damage even when he was flying up. Oh well, don't have any of that in the game. Winning run, we bring Ansbach. Tried it without him, didn't work. Great, remember, we do bleed damage. Ansbach technically helps with that, and since it's percentile, giving Radahn some extra health doesn't really matter. Additionally, our only method of dealing decent stance pressure requires Radahn to look the other way for about 4 seconds if we want to use it safely. So the extra stance resistance doesn't really matter, because we'd effectively be getting nothing if Ansbach weren't here. I've taken to hitting jumping R1s for a little bit more stance build-up per hit, but it really isn't much. Jumping R2s on this thing are terrible. Phase 2 starts and we dance as he tries to grab us, getting the stagger. Then he hits the Hyperlight Drifter, because why should he be vulnerable to damage? He's not stupid. Then he hits the Meteors, because why should he be vulnerable to damage? He's not stupid. Followed by the Myriad Slam, because why should he let us dodge damage? He's not stupid. Thankfully, then he grabs Ansbach, because he's stupid. Then he does a big combo that's punishable, and the slash grab, also punishable. What an idiot. Of course, then he remembers this end goes for the nuke, into the meteors, into the myriad. Then he jumps up right after we get another bleed off, and a full dance. The stance pressure might be there. We're out of flasks though, so I try to let Ansbach take the aggro and somehow get grabbed. I mean, that's fine. 3 hits for Ansbach while he puts me down and no actual damage on me. Like how the grab is supposed to be this terrifying, scary attack. It's literally the nicest thing he can do. A couple more hits, we kill him as he makes the nuke. We do have to block it to not die, but that is a W, baby. Radahn is dead. Took about 30 minutes. Not too shabby. Now, you know Bale's gonna go fine because it's Bale, and I love Bale, and he's really fair. So let's just talk about where this build ranks, and I gotta say, B tier. I know people think this weapon's hot shit, but it's just a bleed stick, and it's so disappointing when it comes to raw damage, stance pressure, and reach. The Ash of War looks neat, it's very stylish. You're gonna take punishment for using it. If I'm gonna take punishment, I need a little more oomph. From what I gather, Twin Blades are more for power stancing and jumping R1s. It's like 9 hits in the combo, building up combo tiers, and more than making up for the status build-up penalty of power stancing. But carrying 1 Twin Blade, yeah, not for me. So join the Patreon if you want to support the channel. Follow us on Twitch to watch us play Elden Ring and other games. Tulok Time will have the edited versions of the other games. Tulok the Cardbarian will have the Magic the Gathering stuff if you want to see Commander content. Oh, we'll play Commander on the Discord, which is also a Patreon reward. And the Patreon will also have the printed versions of the homebrew for the D&D 5e stuff from Tulok the Barbarian, the D&D channel. Yeah, I'm kind of putting a lot of irons in a lot of fires. Please support. Bye.